Jack, how you doing, Jack?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So
Awesome.
you can't see the crowd, but it's about 15,000 people here, and they're all very excited. Make some noise. So they're very excited to have you. So first and foremost, we want to thank you for taking time out of your
Thank you all.
schedule to have this conversation. We greatly appreciate it.
No, thank you all. I'm sorry I couldn't make it in person. Next time I will.
So let's start out. Let's start out with this. You know, for people that may not be familiar, I mean, they probably heard of Square, but let's talk about Block, right? Like, what is Block's mission? Why the name change? What is Block's mission statement as far as 2025?
It's a little bit nerdy, the name change. Like we started our company as Square, and we wanted something that represented that was a common object that got out of the way. Like we didn't want our logo, we didn't want our brand to be the thing. We wanted our company to be something that other businesses could put their business on top of. So we wanted something that was nondescript and kind of boring as our brand, which was Square. And we were going for about 2 years, and then we created Cash App. And over time, we realized like both of these business units are going to be large, and they deserve their own identity. And we need a new name to capture both of them. And we just made the Square into a block, and that's it. But it also represents how we started. We were building credit card processing for merchants in the neighborhood. And, when you think of a block, you think of like the local restaurant, the local barber, the local salon. And it just felt really good. It also was a reference to Bitcoin and blockchain and just everything that we had to do. And again, it was a very simple, nondescript, kind of boring object that got out of the way from our customers so that we could really focus all the energy on them.
Appreciate you, Jack. So we got a little tech check here. It's interesting.
And this is in real time.
It's real time.
So Jack is frozen, but you can still hear him. That lets you know how much we value you, because we could have pre-recorded this, but it wouldn't have been the same. So this is in real time information. We appreciate him just taking time out of his schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
That might be my network. I apologize for that. We'll try to make it faster.
Yeah, Jack, it's a very unique time when you get to talk to somebody of your caliber. Everybody in here has heard the topic of the year, and it's going to be the topic of the future, that being AI. I wonder where you look at AI today and where it's going in the future. How can entrepreneurs, plenty of entrepreneurs in this room right now, how can they use it to their advantage when we have machines that are going to be leading, building, and perhaps replacing some of the careers that we know of today?
It's an incredible question, and I think a lot of people see AI and they shut down a bit. And the way I would think about it is this is a brand new tool that can help you get more input. You don't have to see it as something that just like replaces your output. You can see it as a way to help you get and see many, many more things that you can look at and that you can experiment with and you can build. And what that enables you to do is make your output better. So you don't have to see it as something that diminishes you. You can see it as a new floor to stand upon. It's a new tool that just gives you this incredible collective intelligence that not only allows you to ask it things that you're curious about, but it also allows you to build. And for those of you who haven't tried building with it yet, I would definitely encourage you. We have a product called Goose. It's called Codename Goose. You can search for it on Google. You download it and you can literally tell it what you want to build, and it'll build an app for you. It'll build a web app for you. It'll build an iPhone app. It'll build an Android app, whatever you think about. So really the only limiting factor is your own creativity and your own sense of ideas, because a lot of the effort and the work can be automated, and that allows us all to be a lot more creative. So when it was first coming out, I, like everyone else, was a little concerned that this is something that just replaces, but I don't think it does. I think it provides us a new floor that we can use it to create in an entirely new way. and it takes a lot of the toil away, and it ultimately gives us time back. And that's how I would see it, is like, how do I use this tool to get time back so that I can really focus on building my business? I can focus on serving my customers. That's the most important thing. And that, like, when I need to hire people, I can be very, very deliberate about it instead of over hiring or hiring what I think I need when I actually probably won't, which, avoids a situation in the future where you have to let go of people. So you can just be a lot more deliberate about everything because you have this incredible corpus of knowledge, of intelligence, and don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Just approach it every single day. Try to ask it something that you don't think it's capable of doing. That's how I start my day. Every day, I start off with one of these tools and I try to do something that I don't think I'm capable of doing and that I don't think it's capable of doing. And I always learn something from it. That's the most important thing, is like, you get to decide if you learn from these tools or you let them diminish you. And it's a decision. And you have everything you need to make that decision towards learning. It's just keeping that open mind towards it.
Jack, you were the first entrepreneur that I heard talk about Bitcoin being on a balance sheet at scale. I do have to ask you, because the audience wants to know, do you think Bitcoin will eventually be the world reserve currency that replaces the dollar?
I don't think it has to replace the dollar. I think I think we want other options. I think that the dollar is going to be most challenged by the Chinese yuan and potentially a coalition of other nations. And I think it should be challenged. And I think as we understand that there is that challenge, we should have a third horse in the race. And ideally, that third horse isn't controlled by any one government. It's not controlled by a corporation like a Visa, MasterCard, or any of the banks. But it's actually controlled and owned by the people. And that's what Bitcoin represents to me, is if you think about other protocols on the internet, like what you all use every single day, HTTP. This is a web protocol. It serves everything that you see on the web. It's serving this conversation that we're having right now. Why isn't there an open protocol for money and money transmission? Nobody owns the web protocol. Every single company, from very small to very large, can build it on top of it. And we need that for money as well. There should be no situation where a bank tells you you can't bank with them. There should be no situation where a bank says that you can't process credit cards. That's why we started Square, for small businesses. And there should be no reason the government does the same. We see countless examples of activists, for instance, in all over Africa, Central America, South America, even here in the United States and Canada, that have been shut down by their governments or by their banks for protesting. And that just should not be a situation. So Bitcoin wraps around all of this, independent of it being a reserve currency, which I think it just has better fundamentals, because you don't have central bankers who can print money out of thin air and inflate the money that you have in your bank account or in your pocket. Every single day that goes by, your US dollar gets less and less valuable because they're printing more and more money. You can't do it with that Bitcoin. You can't do that with Bitcoin. It can only go up over time because there's a fixed amount of 21 million.
Okay, so speaking of Bitcoin, he's obviously an early advocate of Bitcoin. What technologies do you think people are kind of sleeping on right now that will potentially change the world in the next 5-10 years?
I don't know if they're sleeping on them, but I think people are hesitant with AI. Back to the first part of our conversation, like I think people are hesitant because they're afraid of it replacing their work or what they're trying to build. And I think that mindset is going to end up doing that, in fact. And if you instead see it as a foundation that we can stand on, and that it's something that enables you to do even more with less, and it gives you time back, then it's a tool like anything else. And I think that's the scary thing right now. And I think people are letting the fear keep them from experimenting with it and keep them from just trying it and having more of a closed mind. So I think it's really important with any new technology to try it for yourself. Don't trust what you read from others. Don't trust other opinions on it. Form your own opinion on your experience, and you have to dive into it and trust yourself to learn from that experience. It might be challenging, it might be frustrating, but who cares? You're going to learn no matter what, and you'll build that learning into something else that will be useful for yourself, for your business. There's a mantra within the Bitcoin circles, which is don't trust, verify. And what that really means is like, let your experience be the guide of everything. Make your own decisions, form your own opinions, because you're going to get thousands of other ones from other people. But the one true one is what resonates with you after you experience it yourself. And these tools are available to you, and you know, you'll be able to understand like if they actually enable you or how they diminish you in any way, and you can overcome that. It's a decision.
Jack, you've been an advocate, obviously, for Bitcoin, but you've talked around this topic of decentralization. And over the past 10 years, we've seen more institutions come into the space, more and more. I wonder, you know, a few years ago, Web3 was the big talk. What are your thoughts on decentralization now, and how far away are we, or how soon will we see it come to fruition from your early talks?
Well, first, like with any of these technologies, like Web3, AI, Bitcoin, like all these things that we're talking about, Web2, like whatever it was in the past, there's always going to be this like massive hype cycle. And it's going to be easy to get into that hype without really understanding the fundamentals. So again, this goes back to like touching ground and experiencing yourself. Does this actually bring value to you, or is someone trying to sell you something that's just repackaged but the same thing? And I saw a lot of Web3 ultimately as a repackaging of the same thing. And what I mean by that is like I saw a lot of VCs who were using it as a way to rebrand something that already existed or was still somewhat centralized and wasn't really solving the problem. And it was just frustrating to see. But I realize that's with every technology. Every new technology that really comes up always has a hype cycle. So it's really up to you all and to us to like understand, like, again, does this actually give me time back? Does this actually add value to what I'm doing? Does it add value to my customers or not? And if it doesn't, it's okay to ignore it, because it'll go away or it'll settle into something that does. I would say that the early internet, for those of you who were on it, it was amazing. It was like, you know, this wild, wild west of like frontier of like everything was new and everything was decentralized. There was Usenet, there was IRC, there was Gopher, there was the web. There were no centralizing forces. And then all of that disappeared in like 5 years because of a few companies building something that was convenient to people, which was like, how do I find things on the internet? And you had Alta Vista, and you had Deja News, and you had Google, and you had Facebook, and you had Twitter. These centralized the discovery mechanism of the internet. So you went to one place to find all this incredible content. But the problem was the content lived on those services as well. So you had the discovery and the creation and also the API, all owned by one company. And that to me is wrong. It's wrong for the company because it puts a ton of pressure on them. And it's wrong for the customer because the company actually owns your data. And they own your identity. And you've all experienced this if you're trying to move your data to another thing or you have to re-sign up or whatnot. That's not how things should exist. So now we finally have technology to enable data portability and moving your identity around with it without a company owning it. But it's not accessible right now. It's not well designed, but it's just work. And it's an opportunity for some businesses as well, for those of you who are still looking for some opportunities. It's a way to, you know, it's something that needs to be figured out more. So I'd say we're still pretty early with it, but at the same time, there's never been more energy around it. And the thing that worries me the most is the most centralized of these services that we become more dependent upon is AI. We have 5 or 6 companies that are building very centralized services that are you go to, you sign up to, you pay for. And the CEOs of these companies can change the intelligences. They can change the algorithms. They can literally decide based on a question you have how it's going to answer. And you've seen this play out, obviously, in the press. Thankfully, we have open source models. And thankfully, we have people who are pushing that more and more. And like we have, again, a third horse in the race, which is completely open and owned by the people. But we need to desire it. We need to want it. We need to ultimately use it to not become dependent upon 5 companies or just one company for this really important technology, which is effectively intelligence. We've seen it with social media. We've seen it with intelligence. We've seen it with a number of other things on the internet, discovery. Now we need to make sure that like all these things can be open source and they can be decentralized and really usable by any business.
A couple of years ago, I went on this huge rant about how I thought Square was going to be the new JP Morgan and replace all of banking. So talk to the audience tonight. Why do you think sentiment changed in 2022 regarding the stock? And what do you think investors got wrong that they didn't see regarding your vision for Square?
Well, I think, I don't know, our goal was never to become like a large bank because I don't think a lot of people have a great relationship with their banks. And that's just not what we wanted to be. And like our goal is ultimately not just purely to focus, like our stock price is entirely dependent upon, do people value our services? Do people value our products? And the stock price will follow that. And any lapse in our stock price is really a function of like our own growth and our own value. So I don't put it upon any analyst or outsider. Like we have to continue to grow our value to customers and that the number of customers that value us continues to increase. So that's what we're working on. And, you know, it's tough, like building something that people want to use every day when you have a lot of new competition is not easy. And it's always a roller coaster and you always have an ebb and flow and nothing is guaranteed. So that's what I want to focus on. I don't care what JP Morgan is doing. I don't care about any of that other stuff. I care about like, do we have customers that actually value what we do? Are we giving them time back? And are we growing because of that? And our stock will follow. And if we get larger than a bank that you mentioned, so be it. But like, I don't want to drive our success by like how big our company is. I want to drive our success by like how many people are we serving and like, do they want to come back to us all the time? And like, do we have a healthy relationship with them rather than them hating us? Like most people hate their banks, unfortunately.
So, you know, your track record in business is obviously remarkable as far as Twitter and Square and now the transition in the block. But I was always fascinated with Cash App. What gave you the foresight to do that acquisition? And can you kind of walk us through that deal? Because you found value in a company that, you know, now it's obvious everybody uses Cash App, but back then it wasn't as popular as it is now. So walk us through, you know, the Cash App acquisition and what made you want to push the button on that.
That was when we actually didn't acquire it. We came up with that. But I will tell you the story of how difficult it was. Like, so we started Square in 2009, and it was going well. And 2 years into it, it's a little bit hard to build something where you're not the customer. Like we're not merchants. We're not like a seller. We're not a smart seller. But we are entrepreneurs, so we're kind of building for other entrepreneurs with Square. But we also had this itch because we could move money around now that like, what can we build something for the individual? And the idea was like, how do we make moving money as simple as communication? And Cash App started as a very simple project where I could send an email to you, just an email, and I would CC pay@square.com. And I would put the dollar amount in the subject line. I could say, here's $5 and send that email. And the money would actually move to you. It would send you an email. It would put like a link within the email to claim your $5, you would put in a debit card on a secure website, and then it would. We figured out how to hack the debit card system. We would force refund the debit, and that money would go to your debit card immediately. So that's how Cash App started. We wanted moving money to be as easy as communication. And at the time, we had a COO in the company who came from PayPal, and he said that we shouldn't be working on this thing. PayPal already exists, like Venmo exists. It's impossible to make this successful. And we ignored it. We were stubborn about it. And we said, no, this feels good and it feels right. So we decided to move it from being just an email thing to an app. And we called it Square Cash. And it started getting some traction little by little. And then it really took off. And the people that were using it didn't call it Square Cash. They called it Cash App. So we changed the name of the app to Cash App. And then it really took off, and suddenly it was in all this music, and it became, it became more of a cultural movement than anything else. But that wasn't an acquisition; that was all in-house. But what I'm proud of there is like everyone in the company for about 5 years, because it cost us a lot of money to run Cash App because we're running it at a loss for quite some time. Everyone in the company wanted to kill that thing for forever. And we were stubborn. We said no, and we protected it. And then eventually, it found its business model, and it worked. And now it's as big, if not bigger, than Square. So now we have these two massive ecosystems because of that stubbornness, and because we felt that no, this feels good to us, and like it feels right. And we saw resonance with people, and then we figured out how to make it work and not lose money, but actually make money.
We're going to stay on this theme of innovation, because if you look at the landscape now, you see a lot of companies adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets. You were somebody that was doing that very early. I wonder, when you look at the landscape of the market now, how do you feel that people are adopting this, right? Obviously, your company, we've seen MicroStrategy have a whole thesis on this. How do you feel that people are adopting this, and why aren't more companies doing this? Or do you see that happening in the future?
I think a lot of companies are doing it. Like you can consider Bitcoin to be an alternative savings account. You can consider it to be like gold, where it's shown a track record over 16 years of just going up. It has its ups and downs, and people say it's volatile, but like if you look at the long range, if you go to your stocks app and you look at all, you see every 4 years it does the same thing, and it just consistently goes up fairly predictably because it's math. And I think companies have understood that, and they're like, this is a hedge against the dollar. I know the dollars I keep in the bank are losing value. So instead of having that, why don't I have Bitcoin that's gaining in value? But to me, Bitcoin fails if it's just, another rock that goes up in value and sits there. It was originally designed to be peer-to-peer electronic cash. It was originally designed to be a third option to Visa and MasterCard and the banks. And if people aren't using it as everyday money and transactional, and instead it's just locked up in a bunch of companies and rich individuals, to me it's failed. Because it really works when it has a chance of being another currency, another reserve currency, when people can use it without having to ask permission from Visa, MasterCard, and the banks, and that it's cheap and free and open. That's the internet that I grew up on. That's the internet that I love, and that's what's missing from the internet right now. Money is not decentralized. It's not open. It's not permissionless. And it affects every single business. It affects all the businesses that you're building, because you have to pay credit card fees and you have to pay fees to the bank. With Bitcoin, you don't have to do that. Anyone who has a great idea that needs to transact money for it can use this open protocol called Bitcoin to use it. So, however, it's a very Western U.S. thing to look at the number going up and down in the U.S. and the company treasuries. If you go to the global south, if you go to Central America, South America, and Africa, they're not thinking about the number going up and down. They're thinking about using it to send money back to their family. You have people from Nigeria who are working in Ghana sending money back to Nigeria and being able to use it right away. So it's more of a remittance use case, and they're actually using it as peer-to-peer electronic cash, which is what it was originally designed for. So I think the US is a little bit behind in this. But both use cases are important, but we need to see it as peer-to-peer electronic cash. Like that's what unlocks everything.
For all the entrepreneurs here today, you've been great at identifying trends very early. With the exception of AI, what's a great tech trend or innovation that people are sleeping on today that they should be using to grow or scale their business?
I think AI is so overwhelming in terms of what it can touch that everything else kind of falls away. You know, the trends I look at for my own business and for my own personal life is the trend of decentralization. How do we push that? The trend of openness and more companies and projects going open source and open protocol. That's huge for me and huge for my business. The trend of AI, obviously. The trend of regulatory fragmentation. More and more of the regulatory environment is getting deeply fragmented. So you have like states like California, which have their own regulatory environment, which is different from New York, and it's different from the U.S. government. And I think that trend continues to worsen. It makes it very hard for companies because they have to build a different thing for each one of these environments. Much less like be a global internet company, which is trying to serve the whole world. And if you're doing payments like we're doing, like it's even harder. It puts a ton of friction on building anything at all. So that fragmentation is an anti-trend, but still a trend. But I think you're asking the right question. Like it's, anyone who says, this is how the world is going to be in 5 years or 2 years or whatever is most likely going to be wrong. But the people who can really read the trends and just whether they be very small trends, but like look interesting, or very large trends that are more obvious, but are going in a particular direction. That's the skill to look at. So I think that can only be built by just taking in as much as possible and trying to understand it for yourself. So, in this case, it's just like, what are you trying to build? What do you want to see in the world? And then what trends do you hear about or do you see that might affect that and might affect it positively or negatively? And just, go down the rabbit hole and understand it. And again, like form your own opinion and form your own experience around it, because that's going to be the most telling. You can take all these opinions that other people have, but ultimately what's going to make you a successful entrepreneur is going to be picking the excellent opinion and understanding excellence and pulling the thread on that and then putting your own thing on top of it.
So one of the things that we did this year, it was a little different, is that we took questions from the community because we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to actually ask Jack Dorsey a question. So we picked 5 questions. So the first question is a very good question. It came from George. Shout out to George, wherever you are. So he said, given your exploration of Africa and passion for blockchain, has Block identified specific ways blockchain can solve developmental challenges on the continent? If not, is Block open to collaborating with indigenous SMEs that have?
Yeah, the beautiful thing about working on protocols like Bitcoin or open source protocols is that Block doesn't have to come in and like tell entrepreneurs in Africa what to do. Like we can just work together through the protocol. And that's great because like there's an incredible set of entrepreneurs working on Bitcoin and payments within Kenya, within Nigeria, within Ghana. Those are the ones I'm most familiar with. I'm sure there's other countries that have entrepreneurs working in that space as well. But those are the ones I'm most familiar with. And we can actually collaborate at a protocol level and actually benefit one another. The most beautiful thing about working with Bitcoin for me and my company is that if we make a product on Bitcoin and it makes Bitcoin a little bit more usable or better, everyone who works on Bitcoin benefits from that. Like that's the power of protocols, is if you help the protocol get better or you add value at this end of the protocol, it rises all the boats naturally. So it's not this like just pure zero sum competition. It's something that like, it's just this amazing collaboration that helps every single business and does it in a way that's more fair because everything is on this open protocol. So yeah, I mean, what I've been doing with those entrepreneurs is just talking with them and figuring out ways to like collaborate, and encouraging more entrepreneurs within Bitcoin itself. This is why we have the B Trust, where we gave a board 500 Bitcoin to identify folks within Africa, Central America, and South America to contribute more to Bitcoin. And they're paid in Bitcoin. And if they make Bitcoin better, Bitcoin goes up in value, and that's their equity, that's their stock, and it's working.
That was a great question. InvestFast, clap it up for that question. Yeah. So Jack, this next one comes from Kyler Miller. Shout out to Kyler. They said, if you were starting out in your 20s with AI as a founder, how would you use it to create real impact?
I wish I was starting out in my 20s with AI. The amount of work and frustration, and like I started programming when I was, I don't know, 12, 13. And I just, like, I'm programming every single day with these tools now. And just the amount of time it took me to just do basic stuff back then is just insane compared to what I can do right now. And I can today I can move so much faster. What would take me, like one of the things I built recently was this thing called BitChat, which was an application that allowed people to communicate over Bluetooth. And before 6 months ago, if I tried to do that, it would have taken me at least a year or two to make that application. And I was able to build something that worked in a weekend. And that was enough that I can contribute it to GitHub and open source. And then I got all this attention, all these other contributors that are now making it better every single day. And a lot of them with these AI tools. It did require some manual coding, but like I could focus on the really interesting parts for the manual coding, and all the other stuff that like is boring or just is frustrating or just takes a bunch of research and time. The AI could take that, and it just really opened the door for me in terms of like what one person is capable of. And all the design for that app and all the code for that app in that one weekend was written by these tools. And I could really focus on saying, this is great, this sucks, change this doesn't work. And it did it. And then where it needed help, I can go in the code and look and understand it. So I was able to build something more or less in a weekend that got into the top 50 of the US App Store, which was unheard of and impossible before. I think the name also helped a lot with that, but like the functionality and the interest was there. But being able to like build something and test it and see it and feel it immediately myself without a whole big team was incredible. And that allowed me to like, should I do more work on this or should I just kill it? Because actually the idea sucks. That's incredible for any entrepreneur, because now you can like use these tools. Any idea you have, you can just express it to these tools that can build it for you. And then you can determine like, this is cool, this resonates, or no, I'm gonna go move on to the next thing. That was months before, or in some cases years before. And now the cost is almost zero to do that same thing and just like cycle through a bunch of your wild ideas to get to something that really works.
From Jeremiah, how should retail investors be thinking about leveraging Bitcoin and stablecoins for building and preserving wealth for their families for the next 400 years?
I can't speak to stablecoins because again, like it started with different principles. These are companies building these stablecoins, and gold is not owned by a company. It's found, and Bitcoin is not owned by one company. It's found. Anyone can buy it. Anyone can sell it, and you can own it. So, like, if you're interested in it, I wouldn't recommend just going out and buying it. I would recommend doing some research and understanding it and asking questions. And then when you've done a little bit of that and you feel like, oh, interesting, go to one of the exchanges like Cash App or Coinbase or whatever and buy a little bit. And you can buy a little bit every week or every month and see how it does over time. And then if you really understand the fundamentals of it and you believe in it, then you can buy more, you can build upon it. But that's true of any investment. Like, don't ever invest in something that you don't really understand and really love. Like, if you're thinking about a stock investment, I think it has to start with like a love for the brand and like a love for what they're doing and a belief in them, because that's really what all the stock market is. It's like that price is just a belief in future growth, and it's purely emotional. There's some fundamentals, of course, but like all the valuations you see are 2019, 20, 25, even 100x what their actual revenue is. That's all emotional belief. And just keep that in mind as you invest in anything. It's like, it's people believing that this is valuable, and that belief increases the value of the thing. And when people don't believe it, they sell it. And that's why the value goes down. So that's really the fundamental of it. And to me, like, Bitcoin it's based by math. It's not emotions. It's mathematics. So it's a lot more sure, just like, gold is a rock. It's pretty solid and it's going to be there. As long as people value that rock and the scarcity of that rock, then it's going to have some value.
Another question from the audience. Inquiring minds want to know, I guess. What were you and Jay-Z discussing in that photo when you two were walking in the Hamptons that day?
Shout the hole. Inquiring minds.
I don't know. It feels like there's been a bunch of photos, but I don't know. We talk about everything. I think Jay has so much wisdom, and I think he's a Buddha to me. And like, I just learn from him every single conversation, and he's just one of those teachers. And there's that he always reminds me, like, we have a decision to make every single experience we take on. Every single mistake we make, every single thing we try to build, every person we come across or have a conversation with, we can decide that they are trying to teach us something. Like, this mistake I just made is trying to teach me something. This experience I'm about to have is trying to teach me something. This person I'm talking to is trying to teach me something. What is it? And asking that question allows you to have mentors everywhere. You don't need to just find your mentor. Every single experience you have, every single person you meet can be a mentor if you change your mindset and you decide, like, what is this thing trying to teach me? Like, what is this person it's got to be something. And the only regrets I have in life is when I have an experience or when I make a mistake or when I have a person in front of me and I don't decide to learn from them. Because all of them are trying to teach something, and those are lessons I want to have. But life moves so fast, and we're so busy that we often forget that. And my whole goal is just to, like, with everything I experience, like, what is this trying to teach me? What is this showing me or trying to show me? And it's my decision whether to see it or not.
Jack, we have one here from Rob Hunter, and I think this is going to resonate with pretty much everyone in here that's an entrepreneur in business. They ask, Jack, Square and Cash App thrive by earning the trust through accessibility and transparency, while traditional banks fell short. For entrepreneurs, how do we gain trust of our audience so we can have the same level of efficiency?
Yeah. You have to break down that word. Like, what does that mean, trust? Like, how do you earn trust? To me, my answer to that question is, like, trust comes from transparency, like being open. The more open a thing is, the more you can trust it. It comes from being reliable. It comes from, like, if someone says they're going to do something, they actually do it. It comes from, for our business, like, it's more reliability, but just being up all the time. But like those are just like, three things that you break down trust, and then it becomes easy. So like how do we become trusted by our customers? We increase transparency. We increase reliability. Um, we make sure that we do what we say. We follow through with our claims and the expectations that people have on us. So then every meeting I have about what we're doing with Cash App or Square, how are we increasing reliability? How are we increasing transparency? How are we increasing, making sure that we're doing what we're saying we're doing? And that's much easier to increase and to focus on than say like let's increase trust, right? Let's be more trusted. No, you got to break it down. Why do people trust you and why don't they trust you? And then that's the thing that you can like really lean into and build into. And it's much easier for you and your teams to like understand it, make it more something that people can actually like act upon instead of this abstract concept.
Well, Jack, not only have you been gracious with your time, but the Square team has been phenomenal. You guys are amazing. If Square's in the house, you guys should
Tell us to the Block team.
Block. Sorry.
They're a great team.
Block, formerly known as Square. But we heard that, one of the keys is always to over-deliver. So you guys chose InvestFest to announce a new grant program for entrepreneurs. So can you tell us about the initiative? From my understanding, it's a pilot program that's going to award $10,000 to 4 sellers on the platform, especially in underbanked areas, and include a full year of support, CPA guidance, therapy sessions, nonprofit connections. So what inspired?
Clap it up for that.
I think it's more than that. I don't think it's just 10,000. I think it's 20 to 30,000. In capital to 2 to 3 like more growth-minded sellers in the Sun Belt. So as you said, like it's not just the money, it's support, and it goes back to like making sure that like we're not just money, but like we're educating and we're supporting as well. And I think that's important, especially as you all build your business too. Like you're not just delivering a product. Ideally, you're also delivering some education around how to use it and how to use it best. And that's where a lot of product is lacking these days and forever. Usually it doesn't come with a lot of education, doesn't come with a lot of support. And we're in a lending business. We lend out billions of dollars every year to sellers and individuals. And if you don't come at it with education, then it's easy to get into really, some bad situations where people just don't know what to do with the money, and you can overwhelm them, and they can get into very, very bad situations that spiral without, just an understanding of some general financial health and good practices.
Well, we want to thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
that.
so much, Jack.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you all.
And once again, Jack can't see y'all, but make some noise for Jack so he can hear you guys.
Well, thank you
love
all.
that.
I feel the energy.
Make some
from
more
the
noise for Jack, please.
The stage is amazing, and I feel it. So thank you all. Appreciate you.
Jack, thank you. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Legendary insight,
Amazing.
legendary conversation.
Yeah, man.
I want to thank the good folks at Block and Jack Dorsey for his time.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a lifetime generational entrepreneur, somebody with an extremely
sure.
impressive resume from Twitter to Cash App to Block to Square. Did a lot.
BitChat, that's innovative.
I'm still having conversations about BitChat.
Mm-hmm.
2 days? 2 days.
Hello.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sir.
People ask who were at InvestFest, we run into them. They're like, what was one of the craziest takeaways? I'm like, the fact that he's using AI every day to try to prove it to do something that he thought he couldn't. So every day he's thinking of something to say, I know it can't do that. Let's see. And every day it doesn't. So he's challenging himself to rethink, to say, all right, let me try to challenge it to see if it can solve that problem. And every time it's done it.
Yeah.
That's just, I'm like, I got to do that. I got to add that to the repertoire.
And once again, block out the noise. For anyone who's like, why is there not anything in his room? That should tell you the seriousness. If Jack is still building with his net worth, it's not time to play. I'm going to keep saying this every week until you understand it. The top entrepreneurs and builders are building faster than ever, like they did in 2010, 11, 12, and 13. Even Zuckerberg going in there and having a fumble with the glasses, and I even love seeing him have to readjust on stage and relaunch and innovate product and excitement. Then now he's out campaigning UFC. Everyone who runs the world is working harder than ever, yet they want to deploy stuff in media to make you think that everything's going to be okay. We are living in a different time. Invest your capital. To those you like, hey, I don't want to invest all of my money and hold it for 5 years. If you don't, you're going to be in trouble. The value of the dollar keeps dropping every month at a precipitous rate. There's nowhere inflation keeps going. I'm going to keep screaming this. Everyone I know who is rich is still worried. So
You
do what you want.
spot on. When you're right, man. Invest your capital. You're right, man. Like, I don't see any slowdown in any of these CEOs. They're trying to figure out the next thing, or if they can't figure out the next thing, how do we partner with the people that are doing the next thing?
For sure.
If we've learned anything over the past 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it's happening. Like, it's happening.
Rashad, I ask you the same thing. Have you met anybody that you respect in business? Are they slowing down?
No, sir. No, sir.
I said, Shawty auditioning for Bond. I said, shit. John Davis, who? So you got the 19 Pro Max. Gotcha.
Next iteration.
Everyone's working hard. Go for
slow
it.
down. No slow down.
Yeah, and they acquiring things right under your nose.
Yep.
Go look what Paramount just purchased today.
Yep. Nike, I know you're trying to reimagine the brand. You got to get some AI something, please.
Something.
Immediately.
All gas, no brakes.
Yeah.